Welcome back to another episode of Career Bound. This morning, we're going to dive right into the value of mentors, role models, anti-role models, all of that good stuff. Having people in your corner and in your proximity as you're just starting out who can help you better visualize the path you're headed down. They can help you anticipate some of the challenges of the path you're headed down. They can help you learn at an accelerated rate, tons of different benefits, advantages, all of that to having these types of people in your life. Cameron, open us up. What are some of your initial thoughts on the value of mentorship, role models, what we can learn from them early in our career?
Yeah, so I think there's not a person listening in the audience that doesn't value the idea of mentorship, having role models, whether it's like career specific or anything that you're trying to learn and grow and build in and stuff. Like everybody gets that. I think the interesting stuff that comes up is like, okay, I'm a young person. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do career wise. What, should I be looking for a formal mentor right now? Should I be like, how should I be thinking about mentorship as, like an asset to help me, figure out what I want to do, help me kind of, start building my career and everything. Personally, I think, because like I grew up playing sports competitively, so like the role of coaches and trainers, like that was something, that was introduced, that was always part of my childhood essentially.
Yep.
And I look back, like even at like 17, 18, I had the awareness of like, yeah, there's been like really, influential people on my life so far. And I really appreciate that. And I had awareness of the role that they played of helping me get to where I was at that point. And just, I felt like I was better prepared for, entering adulthood because I had these like early, mentors and stuff. But I never really, all of those relationships, thinking back, like those were usually, either like close family friends that, I, for one reason or another, I just had a easy time like connecting with, or it was like sports coaches essentially that, I built, I had a relationship with them beyond just like they were my coach. And, I learned things from them that extended beyond just like how to play soccer at a higher level kind of thing. And then, so one of the points I want to make and what I want to talk about with you is like, because it felt like most of the mentors in my life, they usually came up more organically. I never felt like I was seeking out a formal mentor. I was like, I want to be the mentee of somebody at some point because of those early experiences. And that, I think I took that into like my career, like pre-career, like just before getting my career started, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then through the first like 3 to 5 years of my career, it was, I felt a little bit allergic to using the term mentor a lot. Cause I definitely had this idea of like, people who are like aggressively seeking out mentors are kind of lame to me and kind of don't quite get it is what I thought about. Yeah. Yeah. And then people who are like, I want to mentor young people and help them achieve their, their dreams and goals and stuff. That also felt really lame to me. But I would say I'm a gigantic proponent of mentorship and the value of it in, especially your early career journey. I just think it needs to come from a more organic place. I would love to talk about that of like, okay, I don't want to be the lame person who's like, let me go, find a mentor that's going to work with me for the next year. Yeah. It's how can I, I think about it as like, how can I connect with people that are at various stages above me in directions of career and life that I'm interested in pursuing? And how do I build like genuine relationships with them? and connect with them. And, sometimes that means like, hey, I want to go get this job because the people that are working at, this business, I have strong suspicion that I can learn a lot from them. And I just want to be around them. I want to, prove myself. I want to like be valuable to them so that I have more opportunities to learn from them, etc. And then of course, like I think, there are times in life where you really do meet people who you kind of just like naturally form a little bit more formal like mentor-mentee relationship with, and that's great. Yeah. I just think there's a balance there of like, how do you go about seeking those things out? And again, like I think you can go too far on the side of the spectrum that's like, oh, I need a mentor before I do anything, and I'm gonna like treat this mentor as, like I need to get permission from them on all the decisions that I make in my life, kind of thing, or related to my career and whatnot. Like, oh, before I consider taking this job, I must talk to my mentor about this and get their thoughts and everything. Like, I think there's a lot of ways you can have an unhealthy mentorship relationship with someone. But again, like I think the concept is extremely valuable. I think it's arrogant and foolish to be like, no, I can just do everything on my own. I don't need help. I'm the lone wolf kind of thing. I'm too like the too cool for school vibes. I think that's another trap that you can fall into. But yeah, I mean, I can point to a handful of people that have had really big impact on, how I've approached building my career, specific, opportunities that, they have helped open up for me and everything. So it's a fun conversation. I'm excited to go into the weeds, but yeah, those are my opening thoughts.
Yeah, there are like 100 different directions I want to take this. So I'm going to start rattling off and we'll chase some of these threads. But the first thing that comes to mind is this idea of like people who are seeking mentors. It's a form of like procrastination in many cases where it's like, I want somebody, it's the same way that I think people approach, hey, I want to go to college, or I want to do this boot camp, or I want to do this program. It's like, I'm a programs person. I'm always looking for these things that are supposedly good at the surface, but really what I'm trying to do is like extract value from all these other things. Yeah. And I think that's the most harmful way to go about looking for someone that you can learn from, is this sort of value extraction mindset. I think a much more valuable approach is, hey, that person's doing something cool. I could probably learn from them. How can I help them do the thing they're doing better? What can I do to be valuable to them? And I think back to all of the really valuable mentorship type relationships that I've had in my professional life. They've been closer to that. And it wasn't because I was like seeking out a mentor. It's like, in many cases, it was like happenstance. It's like, this person's where I'm already at and they know more than me. But I've just gotten so much more value out of that than, maybe a couple times in the past. Embarrassingly enough, I'll admit, like there were probably a couple times where I've reached out to people and it's like, that person could do stuff for me. That person could open some doors for me. And like doing that in a not in a mindset of like, how can I be valuable, instead of like, how can I have this transaction that does something for me? And so that's what I think one of the fundamental things, if you are someone who recognizes the value of mentorship and you realize like, hey, I could benefit from that, try and approach that with the frame of, how can I help somebody else achieve their vision? How can I be valuable to this other person? Or how can I make it a valuable arrangement for both of us, rather than just a transactional thing where I'm trying to get what that person has so that I'm better off, and it's a net cost to them. So that's one point. But more broadly speaking, I think it's very difficult to just go out and find mentors. If that's what you're searching for. There's typically, when I think about it, like the most valuable way to find a mentor is typically when you're already doing something and you have some direction, and then you find that person as a result of what the work you're doing and the help you need in that work. So for instance, like this is, you know, as an entrepreneur, like this is a direct, maybe more practical illustration of this is like, there are a lot of other people who have built businesses, and a lot of them are probably not the ideal mentor because they haven't built your business or haven't built in your industry or worked with your types of customers or hadn't had the same type of thing. And so like what you're looking for is, you know, like somebody who's interested in solving the same problem as you. That's somebody you can learn from, somebody who's already solved the same problem as you, rather than just like, hey, I need a mentor because I know that there's stuff that I don't know. And so anybody who fits this very rough description is going to be good. Like, just think about, you know, some of the bigger career problems I've like had to wrestle with in my own life, both in the context of like a specific job or specific company, and more broadly speaking, thinking about my career, is like a lot of times those people just show up when you're doing good work and you've built this sort of reputation for yourself. Like, really competent people want to work with other competent people, but in the context of a specific company, I'll give an example. Maybe this is a little bit easier. It's like, if you're a young person just starting out in your career, you're the entry level person and you want to get mentored by the CEO or the VP of sales, the best way to do that is go to kick ass at your job. Like, that's the first thing. You shouldn't just like go to the CEO or the VP of sales and be like, hey, will you be my mentor? Or like, hey, I'd like you to carve out some extra time just for me. You know, most companies it's in their interest to invest in their employees. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to want a mentor, but sort of the best way to find that is like, especially in the context of a company, is like, if you're doing great work and you're showing potential, like people are going to take notice and they're going to be incentivized to like invest in you even more than if you're just like kind of doing the bare minimum and, you know, hoping somebody helps you out. Like I guess the way to think about it, and I kind of started down this track, is like, mentorship is most valuable when you're already doing something really valuable and somebody recognizes your potential, and that person who can help you is like, wow, that person, they've got it. I want it. Like when the mentor finds the mentee, rather than like the mentee going and like, hey, how can you give me value? And, you know, we can dive into, you know, some different examples of like how that's not always true too. But I think that go for it. Take it away.
Here's what I would say, Mitchell, is because I'm listening to both of us talk, and I feel like we're coming off a little bit as like mentor haters kind of thing, mentorship haters. And I think there's a reason for that. So I think if we take a step back, we would both say like there are different kinds of mentors that, you know, people have throughout their life and career journeys that are impactful and valuable for them.
Yeah.
And I think what we're pretty much getting at is like, if you like, okay, so I'll go through, here are the kinds of mentors that I think are kind of different from one another. One is like the more like personal relationship, informal mentor that you typically have, you know, through like at a young age, like through your teens, early 20s. That's like, hey, this person was, you know, a coach of my, you know, baseball team, basketball team. And, you know, I just really respected that person. They were a great coach. And like, by working with them, you know, they also, you know, I learned some like life lessons from them. And maybe that's somebody like I stay in touch with on a semi-regular basis, you know, years after the actual like formal relationship of coach and player has ended and stuff. Like that's a kind of mentorship, and it's really valuable, you know, at that stage of your career and whatnot, or that stage of your life. And then, you know, what we're talking about more so is like, once you are into your career and you are actively learning and building the career that you want, there are going to be people in that very specific professional context, people at the company that you're working at, people in the general like industry or career path that you might be able to get access to, that you want, like, because of their, their experience and what they like, what you can learn from them and how they like might be a valuable piece, to helping you progress in your career. Like, you would like to have a more kind of formal mentorship relationship with. Yeah. And what we're talking about is like within that context, for that kind of person, that's especially where you need to have that, like, how can I be valuable to this person so they're incentivized to be valuable to me? And that's where it's like, yeah, and I think in most cases in that kind of like formal career mentorship where it's like, hey, like, I'm an entry-level salesperson, and I think our VP of sales is like an absolute rock star. And like, I know I want to grow in sales for the next 5 years. Like, I want to be able to like get close to this person and learn from them, and ideally have them like take a specific interest in my career journey, both at this specific company, but beyond it and stuff. And that's where it's like, okay, you can't just take a simplistic like, oh, like, would you go up to the person and be like, can you be my mentor? Can you give me all of your knowledge and time and be helpful to me? Like, that's where you have to think way more deeply about that stuff. And then, like, again, going back to the first kind of mentor I mentioned is like, that's very different when it's like, oh, this is a family friend, and they're doing things, they're living life, they're building their career in some kind of way. It doesn't have to be the specifics of like, oh, I want to go into corporate finance like this person. It can just be like, I admire this person's, values and principles. And yeah, I would love to like for them to take an interest in, taking me under their wing in some kind of way. Like that's a different story. That's a different kind of relationship. And, to get the most out of a person like that, it's going to require, different tactics than, someone like at your company in a formal position. And then I would say there's like a third category of, people like, what we do at Praxis, like it's heavily based on mentorship. Yeah. And, it's almost like it's an in-between, and of course it's also more transactional. But yeah, like there will be different points throughout your career, throughout your life, where it can very much be worth like entering a transactional relationship with someone to be like, hey, I'm trying to solve this specific problem. I'm trying to grow in this specific way. Yes. I want to find the best people for me to work with and pay them to work with me and, help me achieve what I'm trying to achieve. So like the category of Praxis is like, getting your career started, career discovery, entering your like professional adult life essentially. So like, what we're best at the end of the day is like providing mentorship to help people figure out what you want to do, how to like, what are the skills that are worth, investing in now, what are the kinds of early career opportunities that are going to be the best fit for you to get started in based on your, specific combination of skills, interests, experience, values, etc. And it's like, yeah, like at that point in your career, it makes a lot of sense. Another example is like, very basic one is, just if you're trying to get, healthy and fit, like there's a point where it could make sense for you to work with a personal fitness trainer. You're paying them to, coach you up in that specific area because you have a specific need or problem or opportunity, problem you're trying to solve.
This is a good segue though, because this is kind of what I was getting at earlier and wasn't articulating very well, and why it comes off a little bit as like anti-mentor is like, before you've decided you want to get fit, hiring a fitness trainer is not the right mentor for you. Like this is the contrast between like someone who has specific knowledge that you're trying to gain, as opposed to you having no direction and you like wanting to mentor aimlessly. Like, I want someone generally who can help me figure out all the hard things that I need to wrestle with myself. Like, there's a ton of value once you have a specific objective in mind, finding somebody who can help you advance towards that objective, as opposed to sort of the needy, I want a mentorship just because I haven't figured it out, or I haven't made a decision about which direction I want to take my life in. That's where
it's mentorship. That kind of mentorship that we're kind of saying is like typically not the best approach or not very valuable. It's like mentorship as a safety blanket.
Yeah. And well, it's difficult for the mentor too, because it's like, well, what are you trying to get out of this relationship? What are your objectives? Well, if you have a very vague objective, it doesn't mean you have to have your whole life figured out, but like, what's the best way to identify whether a mentor can be useful to you or not is understanding what that person is good at, and like having identified, hey, this person is really good at something that I am also trying to achieve. And without that level of clarity about like one specific problem you want to solve in your life, it's somewhat pointless to go find a mentor unless the mentor is literally really good at helping people gain clarity about what they don't want. In which case, like, supports the same.
Well, that's the problem you're trying to solve at that point, is like, I'm trying to figure out what I want. And therefore it's like, okay, what is the combination of, resource? How can I learn from others without having a direct relationship with them? That kind of gets into the difference of role models versus mentors and things like that. But yeah, I think it's worth saying, like, not everything you're trying to do like requires a formal mentor.
Yeah.
There's for different kinds of problems or different areas that you're trying to work in or whatever it is, like, there's different stages where it's like, okay, I need to just put my head down and like learn as much as I can about this stuff on my own. And then at some point, like if you're interested in graphic design, there are thousands of resources online to teach you the basics of that specific skill. There's, YouTube tutorials, there's, online, courses you can take, etc. And it's like, you don't need to necessarily, like, if you think you have an interest in graphic design, the first thing you do doesn't necessarily have to be like, okay, I have to go find a mentor to teach me everything they know, kind of thing. Like, the world is, like the internet, the world, like, figure out what are the resources you need to level up. And then at some point, if you're pursuing graphic design as like a core skill that you're trying to develop or a long-term career path, then of course at some point mentorship is going to be a part of that equation to help you continue your growth.
So one of the things I think we've been dancing around this, but it's kind of more of a systemic problem, especially for younger people who are just starting out in the real world. And what they lack is experience, knowledge, context. They're trying to gain those things, and they're looking out into the world. And there's this, due to the world we live in and the technology such that as it is, there's like this abundant stream of information and knowledge from people who may or may not have actually earned that knowledge. They may or may not actually be like good people to follow as you're trying to like figure it out. And they may not be ideal mentors. And so one of the things that I think about, like, the reason why we've talked about sort of this figuring out how to be valuable to mentors is because of opportunity cost. The best mentors, the people who are actually worth following, they probably have some other better use of their time because of the competence they've gained, the success they've attained. Like, if they're going to mentor somebody, it's because they want to, not because they have to. Like, typically they've already achieved success in whatever domain and they have other things. If you look out in the world today, though, there are all these thought leaders or people who are just, like, I'm a mentor, I'm somebody that you should follow. And it's like, well, why? Show me the results of what what you've done. And so that's why I think it's a good lesson too, early on, when you know, like, hey, I could use a mentor at some point along this journey. Like, also recognizing sort of, I like to think of it as like anti-role models, like people who are, they're kind of like false flags. Like they're not the people you want to follow, and they're talking a lot more than they're working, and like they're the information or the expertise they're sharing is secondhand. It's not stuff that they've actually earned. They haven't put in the work, and they're not who you want to follow. And it's like, it's hard to identify those in, just from social media sometimes. But I think that sometimes in the interest of wanting a mentor, people that are out there like trying to be mentors in that capacity can like be the wrong fit for you. And I think that it can attract a lot of people who actually could benefit from a mentor. And so that's one of the traps, I think, to be wary of early on when you're starting out, is like learning how to identify the people that are best to actually learn from, and the ones who are, they may have some useful information that they're touting out that they learned from, following other people, but like it wasn't their like own lessons that they've learned. And so the biggest disadvantage of that, it's not just that those people can lead you astray, but it's because their expertise is not stuff they earned on their own. They're unable to do something that is one of the most fundamentally valuable things that mentors offer young adults. And that's anticipate the challenges you're about to face before you face them. And that's why I think, like, when you're looking for a mentor, you want to be really sure the person you're following actually knows what they're talking about, or they've traveled farther down the path that you're trying to head down.
Yep. Hearing you talk through all that, I think two pieces of advice that are pretty similar, or they're related. One is like, don't, especially early on in your career where you're probably not hyper focused on like one specific thing that you can identify and be like, hey, if you're a good example of this is, if you're a small business owner of a local landscaping business, and it's like, great, it is definitely like, now you have something very specific to be like, who can I go connect with that was in my shoes and has experienced the problems that I'm currently experiencing, that can help me, kind of navigate, this portion of the business I'm running, and kind of thing. But if you're like early on in your career and you're like, well, I have like a variety of interest in this and that, and like, hey, I'm doing sales right now, but I'm also interested in marketing and et cetera. Like, there's times where you probably don't have enough focus to prioritize like more specific mentorship. And there's other ways to get what you're seeking without being like, I need a formal mentor to help me with these things. It's more of like, how can I create mentorship from like, hey, I'm going to listen to these podcasts because like, these guys are talking about things that I think I'm interested in, the direction that I want to take my career in, a few years from now. And I want to, I don't want to just like sit and wait until I think I'm ready for that. Like, I want to start learning about this stuff. And then there's like, hey, there's people like in your peer group that are, in different types of career paths, and you can learn from them, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, going back to my initial point I was trying to make. My advice would be, one is, don't focus on finding a mentor. Focus on like creating opportunities, where that are going to result in mentorship opportunities, essentially. So like, if you're, 18, 20, 22, like, don't be like, I need to find a mentor. It's like, how can I go get really valuable experience for myself? And so that I'm surrounding myself with, higher level, ambitious, high achieving people that have my interests or, share my values. And it's like, if you focus on putting yourself in those kinds of spaces or opportunities, there are going to be plenty of opportunities for you to start connecting with people at an individual level that could turn out to be mentors. And mentors don't need to be this formal contractual relationship. It could just be like, hey, I'm working, this job at this cool company, and once a month I run into, the business owner or the CEO, and I get to have a really valuable, coffee chat with them. And so, like, compared to what you were doing before that, it's probably like tremendously valuable for you. But again, like, focusing on where can I put myself so that I can start surrounding myself with, like, the people that I want to learn from and grow alongside of. I think that's a better focus, especially in the early stages of your career, where you probably have a variety of interests and your interests tend to be more broad, than being like, how do I find the one and only mentor that is going to, like, make my life better kind of thing. It's, it's not different from like a, get rich quick scheme kind of thing. Like, oh, if I just had the one mentor, they'd help me. And then the second thing is, I would say, like, this is dating advice. Like, become the person who you would want to mentor. Yeah. Like, instead of being like, how do I get this person to mentor me? How do I, like, what's the best way to reach out to them, etc. Like, focus on yourself, do cool stuff early on in your career. Be the kind of person who is, focusing on, like, being a relentlessly, like, high performer, in those first jobs that you have. If, you're interested in entrepreneurship, like, you should be spending 99% of your time trying to build things, and 1% of your time, like, who can I connect with that's going to help me do this stuff in the future that I want to do. And I think that's really important. I think when we talk about, like, how to approach, like, seeking mentorship in a, what are the wrong ways to do that? I think it comes from just overly focusing on the actual concept of mentorship, rather than, like, what are all the things that are in my individual control that are going to be beneficial to me, and just kind of, like, making the bet and trusting the process of, like, if I focus on those things, like, you are going to run into, tons of people that will be able to be really valuable mentorships to you. Some of those relationships will be a little bit more formal. Some of those will be, less formal or one-offs and everything. But yeah, I think the best way to get high value mentorship on a long-term basis is to do all those other things that aren't necessarily seeking out direct mentorship.
Yep. No, I like that. I like the idea of indirect mentorship as a way to sort of hack it while you're, just starting out too, is like, focus on doing good work, surround yourself by competent people that are also on a cool trajectory. And, if you do find somebody who can offer you more deeply specialized knowledge, great. And, turn that into a mentorship relationship, but it's not always as clear cut as that. Sometimes it's, that sort of learning through osmosis by being surrounded by other people that are, they're either farther ahead of you, or they're just, they're also hardworking. You kind of, like, that camaraderie is really a really valuable component of early career development as well, and can kind of fill that gap of, like, indirect mentorship. So,
again, like, I'm sitting here, we're talking about mentorship, and we're, I'm telling you, like, don't actively seek it. And meanwhile, like, I would never, like, I'm a mentor to a lot of people. And so, like, a lot of people early on in their careers that are trying to figure out what they want to do, et cetera. And again, it's fine. Like, all those people, like, the best people that we work with in Praxis that are, like, clearly accelerating their career trajectory, they are intentional about seeking out that mentorship, and they make sure they are seeking it out and they're getting value from it, but they're not they're not looking at mentorship as this is the thing that I'm dependent on for my own success. It is one of the things that I'm combining with gaining experience, learning skills on my own, doing, building things, whether it's projects or, small businesses or, the work that you're doing in a formal, awesome, like 9-to-5 job early on in your career, et cetera. And then, the mentorship is kind of complementary, but also, secondary to like, what are you doing on your own to create value for yourself?
Yeah. Well, I don't want this episode to come off as like mentorship is incredibly valuable, on both sides of it. It's like one of the most rewarding things to be a part of, especially once you're on the other side of the table as the mentor. But I think the clear point to drive home is like, some people want to be successful, or they want to achieve whatever their objective is so bad that they're not going to let not having a mentor stop them from getting there. And those people tend to also be the best beneficiaries of mentorship, because mentorship can help them go farther and faster.
Yep.
But if you're not already sort of all in, the value of mentorship is really loses a lot of its luster, because you're not going to benefit as much from somebody who can tell you probably what you already know you should be doing in many cases. Like, you kind of have to go implement those things already. And it's sort of the nature of that relationship has to be this one of like mutual self-respect and mutual respect of like, hey, I'm going to bring everything I have to the table, and I'm going to be doing all the stuff that I already know I should be doing. What I'm coming to you is for you to help me identify the things that I don't know that I should be doing that I could be. That's where, like, help me find my blind spots.
It's like I've done 90% and I've hit that ceiling, and I'm looking, for insights and support to help me fill out the remaining 10%.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just like, it's not even really accountability. It's like you've got somebody who's just going to nag you, and that's not a positive relationship for either party, because nobody likes to be nagged, but also nobody likes to have to like point out stuff to somebody who already knows what they should be doing and they're just not doing it. So
yeah, here's like another kind of loose framework I would recommend to people is like, okay, you don't like, let's say this applies in different scenarios, but young professional early on in your career, let's say I'm interested in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I have like, there's something that makes me interested in marketing. Maybe I can articulate it. Maybe I can't quite, but I know I want to develop marketing skills and to like get my first, job in marketing, or, hey, I want to do something entrepreneurial and I know like I need, a marketing skill set to go do it. Mentorship, it can be really, whether it's direct, like one-to-one, or it's like, through in like, hey, I'm going to go listen to these podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. Take these online courses by these people who have really high level marketing skills or are great at teaching, beginners, like those introductory marketing skills, whatever. It's like the first 10% meant like some form of mentorship, whether it's direct or indirect, can be extremely valuable. And then you have to do like the middle, I would say like the middle 80% on your, like, more so like go do the work.
Yep.
And then there's probably going to be a point where it's like, okay, how can I make the work that I just did even better? And that's when it's like, all right, come back to like mentorship to help you get it over, across the finish line kind of thing. So it's like, it's this rhythm of like, okay, I need help defining what I want to do. How, like, what is the roadmap in front of me to go do something? I'm going to go do it and put in the work. And then at the end of it, it's like, how can I make this better? How can I level up, to make it just a little bit better than it otherwise would be, kind of thing.
Yeah. So another another point here I want to make, because this is a piece of advice I love to give to young adults and, like parents of high school kids or people that are 16, 17, 18, especially, where they're like, I have this hunch about something I think I want to do longer term. I'll pick kind of an obscure one, but like, I want to be a veterinarian. Like, let's just use that as a case. Like, what are the things that I can do to go validate whether I want to be a veterinarian or not? There's kind of like, there's this very small sliver of things that you could go do to explore that in a really high fidelity way on your own. So like, one of the pieces of advice I give to young people, I think this is a great exercise. Anytime you have a hunch about a career interest, is like, go find somebody who's doing that, offer to take them to lunch, buy them lunch or coffee or something, and be like, hey, this is something I'm interested in. I'm just starting out, or I'm a student or whatever. Let me buy you lunch. Just all I ask is for 30 minutes of your time. Just help me map this out. Help me gain a little bit more clarity about this path. Help me identify the set of things I can be doing to know whether this is a path I want to go farther down or not. Like, help
me understand what is like the day-to-day life of being a vet actually like, because that's not something like I can just, learn through text.
I can't just go start. I guess you could just go start operating on animals, but that's for now. We don't advise that. Future episode here, but that's very different from just like going and approaching that person and being like, "Hey, will you be my mentor?" It's what you're asking them to do is help you gain clarity about something that they've already accomplished, and it's a very small ask. Yep. I think anything you can do to go investigate that hunch you have before you even have that conversation, though, is great, because they're going to be like, well, what have you done? What are you thinking about doing? Have you started looking at schools? Like, have you read any books? Like, why do you think you want to be a veterinarian? Or, insert other topic. Yeah,
if you show up to that lunch and it's like, okay, I think I want to be a veterinarian. Tell me what I need to know. And they're going to ask you like, what, why do you want to become a veterinarian? And your answer is just like, well, I don't know what I want to do with my career, and I like animals. It's, again, like, depending on the context, if it's a family friend, like, of course they're going to be, happy to spend the time with you and, work with you like through that problem. But like on a personal level, you're going to get way more out of that kind of interaction if you've done all the work that you can do up to that point to just like, hey, like, I'm treating this, you're treating it seriously. Like, you're investigating on your own. You're not dependent on other people to tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, well, it's about the objective you're trying to achieve. It's not going to get into mentor so you can pat yourself on the back about like, well, I did some work on trying to pave my future. It's like, do you actually want to like figure out what you want to do with your life or not? Because if that's really what you want, then you're going into this as an engaged learner where it's like, hey, I really value your time. You've had a successful career. I've seen, because you're a family friend, or maybe you're, my family's pet's veterinarian, whatever the case. We're beating this example to death here, but like, you're going in that because there's knowledge that that you don't have that someone else has. And it's not like, well, I went and met with the veterinarian who offered me some career advice the same way that you would go meet with your career counselor at school, like, because it's something you got to check off the box. It's because you actually care about your future. You're taking your future seriously. And that, like, mentors, people that have the capacity to be mentors, they're going to recognize that in you. And they're probably going to want to invest even more if you kind of meet them with that same level. Like, you're taking yourself seriously and you're taking their time seriously.
Yep. Yeah. Mentorship on its own does not equal, promise or guarantee of career success. You can't just stack up like, oh, look at all these mentors I've collected, like Pokemon cards, and feel good about yourself. But it's absolutely a really valuable, asset to have. It's part of the formula. Like, if you're not intentionally creating opportunities for you to have, valuable like mentors in your life and role models, then you're probably shooting yourself in the foot in terms of like being able to like like meet, like exceed, like fulfill your potential, I would say. Like you're going to be cutting yourself short, but there's a lot that goes into like, what is the best way to approach mentorship throughout your career, especially early on in your career, which is what we've been talking about mostly.
All right, and we're going to end it there. You heard it here first. We'll be back with another episode soon.